Despite the timing, this is not a Fury video. This is a video about pocket carriers and what they are and what they are not. And these, I'll call them from here on out, I'll call it an ad hoc carrier. I purposely picked the Connie Phoenix here because of its Archimedes that it has on the back in its snub position. So I actually find this interesting that this ship has now two snubs on board of two different kinds. But the docking system of the snubs that are on the back of the Constellation series are significantly more improved because they have a landing system and a deployment system that are built into the ship. Now, are they as exciting or are they as unique as the Fury? That's debatable, and also you can argue that the incredible amount of maneuverability and weaponry of the Fury is better in some ways. However, the Snub's ease of use of the ships that are designed to work with the Constellation certainly give you pause. If you see this video, you'll know that you now know that there is a difficulty getting in and out of the Phoenix with the Fury in what's supposed to be a vehicle bay for the Lynx rover. And once again, I am highlighting the difference between the ease of use of docking and undocking when it works, of course, to be fair, before the comment section lights up. But when it works, the docking mechanism and the assistive technologies that are attached work far better than this use of a ship that's not supposed to be places of a ship that are not supposed to carry snubs being used in an ad hoc manner. Now, I'm not saying that the Fury is a bad ship. I'm not saying that it's a bad idea to squeeze in as many as possible. I am saying when you are cruising the StarCitizen subreddit, when you are going to different discords, when you're on Spectrum and you see screenshots of 12 of them in a Hercules and 8 of them in a Reclaimer even, one at a time being deployed out of an elevator. Imagine how long that would take. Consider carefully what you're watching right now. This is what's more realistic. It is in most ships, especially if you don't have the perfect ship, it barely fits. It's extremely difficult to get in and out of, and other snubs do the job better when it comes to ease of use and rapid deployments. So I kind of feel like I'm not trying to discourage people from enjoying their ship. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm not saying that there is not a massive meta change because of a brand new snub that has a lot of extra weaponry. But I wanted to kind of just set the tone and just be like, this is what you're in for. I highly recommend renting the Fury before picking it up, because then you'll be able to know what you're getting into. Unless you're really just looking for an LTI token or something like that, sure, why not? Or just something new and fun. For the record, the ship is fun to fly as well. But once again, this is not a Fury video. This is a realistic video trying to set expectations on what is useful and not in the snub category on ships that are not supposed to be carriers, that are being utilized as ad hoc carriers. So as you can see here on the 400i, this was one that was very risky, I'll say, and I've endured the pain so you don't have to. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work. Not from the back due to the turret in the back, and not from the front either. But once again, I want to show you realistically what it looks like for many ships. And if somehow, some way, somebody sends a screen grab that shows a snub shoved into a 400i, well, this is more likely what you'll end up with when your friend's trying to squeeze his Fury into your ship. So I wanted to also mention something else here. I think that there is something on the Fury I'd like to see on other snubs, is that when it goes into that retraction mode where it allows it to have those wings that completely condense, I would like to see more of that across the snub field. I know that there's the winglet things that change and whatnot, but I'd rather see like the whole wings condensed to be either taller and then narrow of the ship, and then other way where it folds outwards and it's not as tall. So that's a good best practice for the entire snub category of ships that I would like to see other ones have. Additionally, I'm actually glad there is not an ejection seat on the Fury, because if there was, multiple times I would have accidentally hit it and probably really got hurt or worse while I was filming this. But I would say that this is a realistic scenario, and there's no one firing upon me while I'm testing this. There is no other players trying to steal my ship. I stacked up these ships very comfortably right outside of a spaceport, in a safe armistice zone. There's no NPC pirates. There's nothing. So what I'm getting at is the Fury is a combat vessel. And if you're not using snubs that are like utility-minded snubs, combat snubs in general are going to be deployed during stressful situations. They're going to need to be able to be rapidly, reliably deployed and not have their wings fall off or the whole ship explode or something randomly when you desperately need them to work best. Once again, on an ad hoc carrier, any ship that can fit this thing is an ad hoc carrier to me, or any snub if it can fit a snub. I definitely would caution that, and I encourage you to practice landing the vessels into where you're going to have them. Don't just have two of them sitting on your, whether you pick them up in game in the future or right now you pick them up. Don't just have them sitting in your hangar and just go, oh, when I need them, I'll set them up and I'll just throw them in there. It doesn't work that way. First, you'll see with the MSR video, I'll point it out in a moment, the Fury really specifically leads with its nose. And that's something the Archimedes does as well, where it has this elongated nose, and the way the thrusters perfectly line up, like, you have to point it exactly where you need it. If you don't point it perfectly, the ship will basically yaw upwards, or possibly even just dig in its heels and hit the ground. And there's different reasons for that, interestingly. I guess it's not really worth going into everything in this discussion, but basically I'll just sum it up and just say between the thruster layout and the ship geometry, there's very good reasons both ships have that issue. And I would say that that's probably for the whole Fury series, and once again for the Archimedes. That's the ones I have a lot of experience. Well, the Archimedes I have a lot of time in, and the Fury I'm still getting used to. But it's a pretty fun ship. So snubs in general are worth pursuing, especially in ships that can support them correctly, especially ships that have preferably a system that allows them to retract, like the Constellation series. However, that's very rare, let's be honest, and I'm not saying go out and go get yourself a Constellation, especially if you have a ship that can fit this thing or any other snub comfortably, but don't be the guinea pig. Just because you see a screenshot that shows a bunch of them sitting inside a ship, or at least one sitting inside a very small ship, do your homework, ask around. Remember that your org mates and your friends are certainly a good resource. And when in doubt, if you absolutely have to, test it yourself. Go rent the ship for 0 UEC and throw it through its paces. So here we go with the MSR. As I mentioned, this is a lead with your nose ship. I learned this here. Also, the modes for the Fury are extremely important. On other snubs, the landing gear is really important. Once again, it goes back to ship geometry. On the Fury, though, it's basically the wings change a lot of what you're working with. So if you see here, I angled myself, I'm fiddling with it, and then right where the crosshair points. So in the MSR, it's like right below the name. That's the money right there. Now, I didn't say it was going to be smooth. Once again, ad hoc carrier. but that's the money right there, right below the sea. Now, with this ship, though, I would caution putting more than one in. I guarantee you, I didn't see it, but I guarantee you somewhere, once again, on the StarCitizen subreddit or the Discords or Spectrum, somewhere in the greater community, there's gonna be a screenshot with 2 of these sitting inside an MSR. Probably sideways and leaning up against the side of the angled sidewall of that's abutting up the smuggler's side, smuggler's trails. But I would say that that's a terrible idea. If you look how tight it is, okay, you could turn this sideways and probably squeeze in a second one, especially if it's like leaning up against the sidewall. But they're gonna bounce around like crazy, and they're gonna damage each other and possibly even the MSR itself, or worse. I would highly recommend just sticking to one snub inside the MSR if you can fit it. And it fits great once it gets over that hump at the back door, because its thrusters are basically taller than the ship. And that's actually something other snubs do not have the issue of. They may be longer, but there's certainly points to have. Okay, so this is part 1 of a lot of coverage I'm going to have during Invicus Flight Week, Jump Week, Launch Week. I think we're calling it Lunch Week now. And I hope you have a wonderful event and fly safe. And, oh, yeah. Thank you to my long-term subscribers. I appreciate all my new subscribers as well. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It means a lot. I'm very close to 1,000 subscribers. That's been a long-term goal for me. Thank you.